Viserys, in House of the Dragon, is portrayed as one of the most tragic characters. Yes, he wasn't a strong monarch with a firm hand and, in fact, allowed the kingdom to fall into disarray, but he wasn't a complete fool either. He always remained a loyal and loving relative. As a king, he wasn't the worst of his lineage. This made the end of his life and reign particularly sad because Viserys is a rare character in this story, who evokes sympathy and compassion. In his final years, Viserys saw the growing conflict between his children with his own eyes, anticipated major upheavals for the realm, and suffered from a painful illness that ultimately claimed his life. In this video, I propose tracing the story of Viserys the First Targaryen, how he unexpectedly came to power, how he tried to keep the kingdom together, and why he ultimately failed. Viserys had an extensive lineage during his lifetime. The Targaryen family was quite large. Viserys' grandfather was King Jaehaerys I, who became a true savior of the Seven Kingdoms by ending civil wars and establishing peace in the realm for many years. Jaehaerys had 13 children, although nearly half of them died young from various illnesses. However, the king still had several adult heirs. Viserys' father was Balon, the third son of King Jaehaerys. From childhood, Viserys was an incredibly cheerful boy. He was always laughing and delighted everyone with his smile. He also loved to eat from a young age, so he was known for his stout build, which turned into obesity over the years. Interestingly, Viserys became the last rider of the greatest Targaryen dragon, Balerion the Black Dread, on whom Aegon the Conqueror united the Seven Kingdoms. Viserys mounted him at the age of 16, but a year later, Balerion died of old age. And after that, Viserys did not want to claim another dragon. Initially, Viserys was not the main heir to the throne, but it so happened that one by one, all the other candidates died, including his father and uncle. Some fell in battle, others died from sudden illnesses. During his lifetime, King Jaehaerys lost all his sons, and the question arose again: who would succeed the aging king? To answer this, a great council was convened, to which 1,000 lords from all lands gathered. Among others, Rhaenys, the daughter of the king's eldest son, while Viserys' father was the younger son, was a contender for the throne. However, the lords dismissed her candidacy because she was a woman. Rhaenys then proposed her son Laenor to the council, but he was also rejected, as he was a descendant of the female line. Ultimately, the council decided that the heir should be the king's grandson, Viserys. Yes, his father was younger than Rhaenys' father, but the nobility considered it more important for the title to pass through the male line rather than the female. So, when King Jaehaerys peacefully died of old age, Viserys became the new king. He was already 26 at the time and appeared to be the optimal choice in the eyes of the lords. By nature, Viserys was a kind, non-confrontational person. He enjoyed getting along with people and resolving conflicts. Because of this, he quickly won the love of the common folk and the respect of most lords. The king rarely denied requests, trying to fulfill the petitions of those who approached him whenever possible. He married his cousin, Aemma Arryn. Viserys and Aemma genuinely loved each other, and the couple led a lavish lifestyle in the capital. The king frequently hosted feasts, tournaments, and celebrations, favoring poets and musicians. Under his reign, court life thrived, attracting people from all over the kingdom. The only thing Viserys lacked was an heir of his own. He and his wife actively pursued this goal. They had started even before Viserys became king. However, year after year, their attempts to produce an heir failed. Aemma suffered a series of unsuccessful pregnancies and was unable to give birth to a healthy child. The only healthy child they had was a girl, Rhaenyra. Both doted on their daughter, but Viserys still longed for a son whom he could eventually pass down power. Viserys had two younger brothers. The youngest died in infancy, but there was also Daemon, who was soon nicknamed the Rogue Prince. In their youth, Viserys and Daemon spent much time together and were close, though it's hard to imagine two more different people. Viserys was gentle, non-confrontational, and cheerful. He valued celebrations, peace, and was cautious. He never abused his power, willingly delegating many responsibilities to his aides. Daemon, on the other hand, was fierce, wild, bold, and ruthless. He acknowledged no rules or boundaries, enjoyed provoking people, and often got into conflicts. Daemon had great ambitions and dreamed of becoming king, especially since Viserys had no sons. Viserys overlooked his brother's antics for a long time because he loved and respected him for his strength of character. However, everything changed when Aemma died while giving birth to a son, who also died shortly after. The entire court was in mourning, but during this time, Daemon entertained himself in a brothel, making jokes about the innocent infant. When Viserys learned of this, he banished his brother from the capital for a long time. To finally crush Daemon's hopes for the throne, he officially declared his daughter, Rhaenyra, as his heir. In doing so, Viserys made a serious mistake. He essentially overturned the law that had put him on the throne, declaring a girl the heir while Daemon Targaryen of the same royal line was still alive was seen as strange. Viserys also had issues with the Velaryons, a powerful house with the same Valyrian ancestry as the Targaryens. Rhaenys, who had once challenged Viserys' right to the royal title, was married to Lord Corlys Velaryon, giving the Velaryons their own claim to royal power and influence in the kingdom. All these contradictions soon intensified, and Viserys found himself caught between two fires. After the death of his wife, Aemma, Viserys was in deep grief. He had lost his beloved wife, who on top of that had never given him an heir. Likely his decision to name Rhaenyra as his heir was driven by sorrow over losing Aemma, and anger at his brother, as it is difficult to find a logical explanation for this choice. The king was still very young and could potentially take a new wife who might bear him a son and resolve all disputes about the succession. At this point, the Velaryons became active, offering one of their daughters to Viserys in marriage as a means to gain power through her. However, the king refused, which angered the Velaryons. He instead married Alicent Hightower, the daughter of the king's hand, Otto Hightower. When Daemon learned of this, he flew into a rage, realizing that the new wife would likely give the king a son, further pushing Daemon away from the coveted Iron Throne. And so it happened. Alicent turned out to be much healthier and more fertile than Aemma Arryn. Within a few years, she bore the king 3 sons and a daughter, Aegon, Aemond, Daeron, and Helena. However, the king did not revoke his decree, and Rhaenyra continued to be considered the heir, even with her living brothers, who by the laws of the 7 kingdoms had more right to the throne. Moreover, Rhaenyra also gave birth to 3 sons with Laenor Velaryon. Officially, though, they were likely bastards fathered by Sir Harwin Strong, who were then considered her heirs, strengthening her position. All of this led to a split within the Targaryen family, a split at court, and a split across the entire kingdom. The king, of course, saw the growing conflict and did not ignore it. The king made every effort to establish good relations between his daughter, Rhaenyra, and her children and supporters, and his wife Alicent and her children and supporters. Viserys loved them both equally and was frustrated that his daughter and wife could not find common ground and were at odds. To Alicent's credit, before Rhaenyra married Laenor Velaryon, she proposed the only workable way to prevent a future conflict: marry her son Aegon to Rhaenyra. Yes, there was a 10-year age gap between them, but this would have united the 2 rival factions. However, Viserys refused. Instead, the king tried to resolve the disputes and bring his family together by arranging joint celebrations and feasts and showering his relatives with gifts. By royal decree, Rhaenyra's and Alicent's sons shared the same wet nurse. All the boys were taught by the same tutors, trained, and grew up together. But the animosity between their mothers was stronger than Viserys' efforts. His sons came to hate his grandsons, and this hatred was mutual. Under the king's watchful eye, Rhaenyra and Alicent pretended to be good friends, and their children forced insincere smiles. However, as soon as Viserys turned his back, the conflict flared up again with renewed intensity. Year after year, the king grew weaker and more frail as he watched the strife within his own family. By the age of 50, he resembled an old man, suffering from various ailments. From childhood, Viserys had no restraint when it came to food and wine, which led him to being overweight. Over the years, this excess weight was compounded by other unpleasant maladies: gout, which tormented the king, joint and spine diseases, difficulty breathing, and so on. What exact illness claimed Viserys' life is a big question. According to the series, the king suffered from a form of leprosy, a fatal disease in the medieval Seven Kingdoms with its underdeveloped medical practices. Because of leprosy, the king gradually became covered in unhealing sores. His skin turned a grayish hue, his hair fell out, and by the end of his life he resembled a walking corpse. In this version, the king's death at 52 seems quite logical. However, in the books, Viserys' illness was not explicitly named, and the symptoms shown in the series were not described. It was only mentioned that he suffered from obesity, gout, and frequent pain. It was also noted that the king had cut himself several times on the sharp edges of the Iron Throne, and the wounds never healed. On one occasion, he had to have 2 fingers amputated to prevent blood poisoning. From this, it can be inferred that Viserys might have had diabetes. Considering his lifestyle, it's not surprising. Moreover, wounds indeed take a long time to heal in diabetes. However, judging by the book version, it is more difficult to determine what exactly caused the king's death. It seems to me that it was a combination of factors: physical, diabetes and other diseases, and psychological, endless stress from the immense responsibility and the failure to reconcile his loved ones. In both versions, though, the king suffered from his ailment for years, enduring pain. By the end of his life, he had lost the ability to move and stand on his own, and death must have come as a relief to him. However, for the Seven Kingdoms, the loss of the monarch was the trigger that set off a bloody civil war. That's all from me for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon. Your support is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching, see you soon, goodbye.